I was going to talk to you a little bit about Pom Pom's last few days and his passing, and then I really wanted to reach out and encourage those of you who've shared with me that you have lost fur babies, especially those of you who've lost them recently. I also know there are some of you on the channel that have reached out to me and said that you've lost a loved one as well. Somebody had lost their wife recently. So really just to encourage you in your grief, and I've actually got a little sympathy card to share with you for your loss as well towards the end of this video. Pom Pom, as you know, was diagnosed with malignant melanoma cancer, and the statistics showed, although there was very little research, as it is quite rare, that they pass away within about a month of having the tumour removed with surgery. So Pom Pom followed the same pattern and passed away about a month after he'd had it surgically removed. So in that sense, it was no different to the other cases. We had hoped that he would trial the melanoma vaccine and that might extend his life. He was so full of energy right up until the last minute. So as you saw today, there was a video that went up about his last binky that was recorded, and that was just 2 weeks before he passed away. He had energy in those last 2 weeks, and up until the last weekend, he was still zooming around the house, tearing the carpet up and doing binkies. It was a bit confusing because he'd had blood tests that showed his liver had been heavily affected, and it seemed obvious that it was the cancer, but there was still the question mark over it could be something else. And that last week he was struggling to breathe. I had said to the vets I'd noticed he had laboured breathing and quite noisy breathing, and I said to Stephen, do you think it's hit his lungs? Is this the end? But we still hoped beyond hope that it wasn't, and held on to that hope. That week I was hospitalised overnight, as I shared at the time, so he could have passed away while I was in hospital. Thankfully he didn't. It was then the following Monday that he passed, and I got home on the Thursday from hospital. On the Friday he seemed his usual self, perhaps a little bit more tired than usual, and by the Friday evening he was getting quite clingy to me, and I sort of sensed something was wrong. Saturday he spent the day mainly in my room, mainly on my bed with me, and Sunday we took him to an out of hours vet, sensing that things weren't right. Now, it wasn't our normal vet who was an expert, a rabbit expert in exotic, and this vet just said he'd been shown to have anemia on the bloods, and it was the anemia that was causing the problems. And I said to her, do you think it's cancer because he's been drinking a lot? And she said, well, yes, excessive thirst could be cancer, but I think it's just the anemia. So we went home on Sunday thinking it was still just anemia, and he was going to have further investigations that week. Sunday night he spent on my bedside table next to me, and in the early hours of Sunday morning I heard him get down with not very much energy at all, drag himself to the door and hide in a tunnel that was just outside my room. So by 5 o'clock I got up and I said to Stephen, can you please cancel today's plans? I don't think Pom Pom's well. I think something's up, something's not right. And we saw him in the tunnel. He felt very cold to touch, and it became very apparent to me then that he'd gone to hide, as rabbits do hide illnesses, to the end, because he was going to die. We made him comfortable in his litter tray on a pillow, wrapped him in one of my shirts, and while we were ringing another vet, his head was nodding and he was going basically. And I said to Stephen, I don't think we're going to make it. He's dying. It became apparent to me then that he was going to die that day on the Monday. We decided to take him to the vets in Peterborough anyway, and wrapped him up in another one of my long sleeve shirts that I'd worn, took him in the car, and it was all a bit of a rush to get him there. And the idea was he was either then going to be euthanised at the vets, or if we could, ideally bring him home to die comfortably. I had prepared myself when I had the cancer diagnosis for euthanisation. I don't think there's anything wrong with euthanizing a pet. I wouldn't do as I heard on social media a charity did, which was to put a rabbit down when they got the diagnosis, rather than when the rabbit was actually ill and struggling, because that would have meant if I had done that, I would have robbed Pom Pom of that last month of binkies and zoomies in life. But when they're struggling and there's no way of making them comfortable, then yeah, euthanization would be an option, and the vet could have advised on that. So I prepared myself for that. But when Pom Pom was poorly, I said to Stephen, I would love for him to die in my arms, but what are the odds of that happening? I was in hospital that week. He could have passed then. He was hiding away. He could have passed then. He passed, thankfully, and I feel somebody had orchestrated the whole thing that morning, that I caught Stephen before he'd left. We went to the vets together. He passed away in my arms. I was holding him. I knew he was struggling to breathe. I had a furry scarf that I hadn't worn, and I put it on my shoulder, propped him up on it, and he was then able to take a breath, and a few minutes later took his last double breath. And I feel it was a double breath because he took one for me and one for him, and he then passed in my arms. And that was a beautiful thing, because he was Mummy's little boy, and he was a very nervous rabbit, and that was the nicest way for him to go. It was merciful that he didn't suffer as such. He was obviously in pain. The last week he was very ratty, his taste buds were affected, he was ripping a lot of carpet up, and just generally a little bit moody, but still binking, still zooming, still playing with his toys as much as he could. And the medication had affected him, but he lived till the end, and he really only suffered in those last, I would say, 48 hours, and in those last few hours. And the way it worked out, any earlier he would have died in his litter tray with us around him, but not in my arms. 10 minutes later he would have died at the vet's in a cold clinical room, possibly out the back without me there. So the way it worked out in the end was beautiful for me and for him, that I got to hold him and help his transition from this life into the next, as tragic and sad as it was. So I feel that those who have to go for euthanization, I would say please don't feel bad, because you know that you are doing the kindest thing for your pet, although the hardest thing for yourself. And you know, whatever the circumstances are, don't feel bad if that's the route that you have to go down, if there's no other way of supporting them or making them comfortable, and as a last resort, that's what needs to be had. Now, a lot of you did share with me when I lost Pom Pom that you had lost fur babies recently as well, and be that hamsters, cats, dogs, rabbits, or even human spouses. And I wanted to reach out, having been through this myself now with Pom Pom, and the darkness that it can cast over you, and just try and shed some light on encouraging you guys as well as you have encouraged me. And I, as I said in other videos, I'm in the fortunate position that I've been able to grieve publicly with all of you. I know there are those of you that are grieving for a fur baby or a loved one in the quietness of your own home, possibly alone. Other people don't know what you're going through, and it must be really, really hard. One thing I would like you to do for me, and I would encourage you to do, if you're watching this video, in the comment section below, would you leave for me a comment talking about your fur baby and the thing that was most precious to you about them? Everyone would have something different that they loved the most about their fur baby. Pom Pom and I, it was our bond that we had, our special bond, and that was what was special to me. But let me know in the comments below what was the thing to you that was most special about your fur baby, and give me their name as well, so that you're letting me and other people know a little bit of a tribute to your fur baby on the channel. Now, I just got a couple of things I wanted to share with you. I have bought these especially for you. They weren't given to me, they're blank inside, I haven't written in them. And I just wanted to share this one with you first, if you have lost a fur baby. Did you notice that when you look up, there is an extra star in the sky? It's the really bright, shiny one that twinkles down especially for you. You'll spot it on the really clear night, but it's also important to remember that even when you can't see it, it will be there. It is always there, reaching through the darkness and shining down on you, letting you know that although someone very special has gone, their light will never go out. And it's the encouragement that they are still there, even though you can't see them. And that's something I'm trying to come to terms with. I felt after Pom Pom passed, and even now, that there are a lot of little signs of things that have happened that I've shared with you as well that just seem too much to be a coincidence. And I feel their presence is still ever there, reaching out to us and encouraging us in the ways that they know would warm our hearts the best. So next time you look out at the night sky, and I'm taking this video at night, so look out at the night sky and look out for that star, the one that shines the brightest. That's your fur baby. And they're still there, and even on a dark night when the skies are grey and you can't see them, they're still there, and be assured they're there with you all the time, and that presence is never going to leave you. Now, grief comes in stages. If you look up stages of grief, it comes in different stages. There's denial, there's anger, there's different stages of grief that you will have to go through. And it's a journey that we are called to go through, that we have to go through in losing the loved one. And really, the greater the love, the harder the grief and the harder the journey. So don't feel guilty if, as I have done, some days I don't feel upset about it and the day seems to go by okay, and other days it will hit me like a ton of bricks and I don't want to get out of bed, and all I want to do is sit by his castle and cry. It will come in fits and starts and at different stages. Another card that I've got for you to share with you that I thought was important, again I've left it blank inside. Love. A magical, all-consuming emotion that connects two hearts in an unbreakable bond, transcending time and space. It's the warmth that fills your soul when you're with the one who understands you most. And that really was me and Pom Pom, and I'm sure it was you with your fur babies as well and your partners. Those of you who saw a lot of the videos of me and Pom Pom, he always loved to be around me, and I felt he really understood me. My bond with Pom Pom was so strong that I felt he understood me like no one else did. And he was just my little confidant and my little best friend and my little shadow, and he was always there with me. But he was also the one that made me shine, which was beautiful. And it's an unbreakable bond transcending time and space. And I know at times when I just want to hold Pom Pom and he's not here, and it hurts like hell, that you have to think that that bond does transcend time and space, and no one can take that away from you. That bond is always going to be there, regardless of what happens, distance, ill health, death itself. Nothing is going to keep you apart from your loved one when that bond is there. The last card I have for you, again, I haven't signed it or anything, but this is a little card of sympathy on a practical note for you. So there's a little tissue there to wipe your tears, a heart so you know that you are loved, a forget-me-not to remember the happy times, a star to guide you, and a dove to bring you peace. And it ends with thinking of you. So I really hope for you at this time that you will have peace in your heart, knowing that your loved one is in a better place. And excuse me, it's impossible to do a video like this without getting tearful, but don't forget the happy times you had together. Recall them to mind. Again, I'm so fortunate in that all these videos and photos of Pom Pom that I took in his lifetime, probably more than a lot of people, because I was always following him around with the YouTube channel in mind. And I get to share all of those with you, some of them again, some new footage, and get to keep that memory of him alive for a little bit longer before I'm ready to totally move on. But in yourself, don't forget those happy moments. Look back at a photo, Close your eyes if you don't have one, and remember yourself with your fur baby. Remember what they smelled like, what they felt like, and just feel as close to them as you can. So really, I just wanted to talk you through what happened in those last few hours with Pom Pom, and just to say that I am thinking of you, going through this myself, to reach out to you as you have done to me, and to repay some of that kindness that I've received from you on the channel, and to say just sending my sympathies to you at this time also.